Mordhau is a game for lunatics, and possibly made by lunatics too. This game was pitched to me as the spiritual successor to Chivalry, which was enough to pique my interest, but I still needed more to be sold on it. Chivalry was great, but it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So in order for Mordhau to hook me in, it couldn't just be Chivalry with updated graphics. The gameplay needed to feel like an improvement as well. God, this game feels fucking great. Alright, so where do I begin? Before you do anything, there's a weird bug in this game where the chat is constantly being filled with people's views on race relations. But thankfully, there's an easy fix. Mordhau was developed with the goal of being a competitive melee sim. But the important thing is, you don't have to be sweaty to have a good time. You do have to be okay with getting your shit kicked in when you're first starting out, though. There's a steep learning curve for new players, especially if you're completely new to the genre. You'll probably be bad for a long time, and you need to be okay with that to enjoy this game. You have to want to get better, otherwise you won't play this game for very long. When up against only one other person, fights mostly come down to who has the most skill. There are advantages and disadvantages to every weapon and build, but at the end of the day, one or two mistakes is enough to cost you the entire fight. That's why it's possible for a completely naked guy to go up against someone in full plate mail. If you're the type of person who isn't put off by a steep learning curve, then you're in for a fantastic time. Even after hundreds of hours of playing, you'll still be learning new things, which I think says a lot about how many hours you can get out of this game, but also how far behind you are when you're first starting out. Although it wants to be balanced and competitive, I think this game is best when you're just messing around. There's plenty to talk about when it comes to the variety of weapons and playstyles, but there's also a good amount of weapons and perks that serve no other purpose other than shenanigans. Brawler increases your fist damage and speed, which is terrible for Frontline, but a necessity for Medieval Fight Club. So you're encouraged by the game to dick around, which leads me to the thing I like most. Mordhau can still be fun when you're losing. You and your boys versus a few enemies feels like a small battle, and winning those battles is generally a lot more satisfying than winning the war. I've been avoiding a lot of competitive games lately, because if I have a string of bad matches, it'll often feel like my night was made worse than if I hadn't played games at all. And, you know, that's fucked. So it's amazing that Mordhau could scratch that competitive itch for me, yet still be a good time when the rest of my team is as bad as myself. There's actually a decent variety of game modes that offer something for nearly everyone. Frontline is your bread and butter, 24 versus 24 objective-based gameplay on a pretty decent-sized map, but there's also a lot more. Horde mode surprised me a bit. I thought it would be pretty half-assed, but I think the AI is a lot of fun to fight. They can be easy to exploit though, and have virtually no idea what they're doing around ladders, but it can be a good change of pace from the human trash compactor that is Frontlines, and might even help you build up your confidence for fighting. Nope, I'm still bad. Then there's the dueling servers, where boys become men. You can practice dueling against other players, and get ready to get your ass kicked in ranked. It's an honor system though. Don't start running around killing people, it's obnoxious. And then there's ranked mode, which wasn't added until somewhat recently. I'm really glad they did though. It just makes sense to have when so many people enjoy the competitive aspects of this game. It did shed light on some of the issues that need to be addressed, but let's save that for later. There also used to be a Battle Royale mode. Yeah, we don't talk about that. With this being a melee game, it's important that the kills feel satisfying. It's kinda hard to describe, but there's a small triumph that's felt when you get a kill in this game. The sound effects are great, and there's no other way to describe the combat other than fluid. I'm glad they went heavier on the gore, cause it really ties it all together. It elevates it from medieval combat game to melon smashing simulator. What's up, fuckers? Let's start by talking about the weapons. There's a lot of them. It can almost be a bit overwhelming at first, but they generally work how you would expect. It's a balancing act between damage, speed, and reach. But honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's also recovery time, turn cap, combo speed. You'll never be able to watch a medieval movie again without thinking about stamina drain. The weapon stats are insanely in-depth, And if you're the type of person who wants to sit down and know every distinguishing detail between a war axe, the battle axe, and the pole axe, then oh boy are you gonna have a hell of a time. Okay, take the mace for example. It's one of the most popular weapons out there because it can kill you in only 2 hits, and you can chuck it at people's heads. But the downside is, it's extremely short. So, you can counter it if you use a weapon with a bit better range and prevent them from getting too close. Every weapon has its shortcomings. Getting better isn't about figuring out which weapons are the best, it's about knowing how to counter them. And take it from me, I am an expert after all. Just don't expect to be good with a weapon because some guy on Reddit told you to use it. It takes a while to get the hang of things. You'll fall for feints constantly. You'll swing when you should have blocked, but eventually it clicks.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
The truth is, unless you're dueling, you don't really have to know what you're doing. Sometimes doing stupid stuff just works. They can't hit me! Oh my. One thing that surprised me is the reward for leveling up. Weapons all cost a small amount of gold, but you can get all the ones you want for pretty cheap. Which means that the only other things to unlock are cosmetics. Deep customization and no microtransactions? I don't believe what I'm hearing. Most people didn't when the game was first released. There were always fears that further down the line, some new armor would be locked behind a paywall or something. But here we are over a year later and there's been nothing but free content. And I mean, I was concerned that this wouldn't be enough to keep me interested for long. But the customization really is fun to get lost in. And the gameplay is entertaining enough on its own to keep me coming back. There have been some concerns around player decrease, but for the time being, I don't think it's a huge issue. That can be a bit of a different story depending on which region you're selecting. But in my experience, all the US servers I tried had at least a couple of lobbies to choose from. Now, if you live in the Midwest and are searching for a ranked match, then you might have a problem. So just keep that in mind if you're thinking of picking this up. There is a valid concern about the longevity of Mordhau, but we'll come back to that in a minute. Unfortunately, player decrease hasn't been the only issue plaguing the game recently. Server instability has always been an issue, but it seems to have persisted for a lot longer than I was expecting. High ping and packet loss can appear even on a decent connection. They've released some updates to try and fix this, but it still crops up for me now and again. In general, the updates for any sort of improvement have been on the lighter side. That is a bit of a disappointment, but it's a small team of developers, so I understand. They've put out a couple of new maps since release, which is nice, cause a lot of the maps weren't designed super well to begin with. I mean, they look great, but because they were trying to make them work across all of the different types of game modes, they don't really feel balanced for any of them. At least that's my guess. I do enjoy playing them still, but they just feel like they could be designed better. There's also what I think is the biggest problem with Mordhau, and that's how challenging it can be for new players to pick up. The tutorial was fine back when nobody knew what they were doing and when Frontline was a mosh pit of absolute chaos. Now that games are mostly filled with more experienced players, it's more like a mosh pit of calculated chaos. So there needs to be something else in place for new players to be able to learn and actually enjoy the game. I'm not sure what the solution is because the smaller player base negates a lot of the normal fixes. Level-based matchmaking isn't really an option given there aren't enough players to fill tons of different servers. Maybe make the tutorial more advanced? I don't know, it'd be a start. It's a difficult problem to solve, and there's a lot of differing opinions out there about how to change this game for the better. I've heard people say that bows are annoying and should be removed from the game entirely. I've also heard people say that bows are extremely underpowered because they aren't always a one-shot headshot. I don't know many things, but I do know those people should burn in hell. There's the more serious issues as well with janky animations. You know, that thing that caused everyone to stop playing Chivalry. While they're here and they're frustrating. I mean, truthfully, they're more of an issue for higher skilled players, which is a bad thing, but at least it won't be a main concern for newer players. I do think that players who want the devs to focus more on the competitive elements are justified in a lot of their complaints. I don't really want to pick sides here, and I'm certainly not well versed enough in the balancing aspect of this game to know who's right and who's wrong. But communication between at least some of the devs in the community has been suboptimal to say the least. It's a shame, because I really think Mordhau is the best Melee game out there right now. Hopefully these issues will get worked on, but even still, I think this game is worth checking out. It's a bit older now. You're not going to find tons of lobbies to choose from if you're just getting into it. But hell, buy it with a friend and there's a good chance you'll laugh your ass off. You'd be surprised at how fun smashing melons can be. There are some other games currently in development which might make this game irrelevant in a year or two, but I don't think that's as much of a guarantee as people think it is. I have high hopes for games like Chivalry 2, but who knows, maybe it'll be bad. I mean, I hope not, but it wouldn't surprise me given the track record of most new releases nowadays. Besides, there's a lot more fun to be had in Mordhau that you just need to experience for yourself.